Okay, so public outcome-based budgeting. Okay, this is a current practice now in Malaysian government. Okay, in previous class, we covered modified budgeting system. Right, so I think, all these techniques, you must be very clear that is basically for, the systems, the procedures, how to allocate budgets, allocation to government machineries, government agencies. Okay, I think that's the focus. So once they receive their budget allocation, then of course, I mean, the supporting system will be the accounting systems, okay, including the budget system or the budget recording system. Okay, so of course, the issues or the challenges, how to make sure that all the, when they plan, they spend, they have the budget allocation, and how they can achieve value for money. I think before I proceed, recently, I think last Friday, so for Malaysian government, the next year budget was proposed by the Minister of Finance in the Parliament. Okay, maybe we spend like 1 or 2 minutes. Any comment on the budget? Everybody is happy? Or you don't, so any comments, or maybe from the budget is clearly that, it can address all the major problems, including, areas that you have direct experience. Anyone? Or you want me to turn off the recording? That no comment, huh? Very happy. No, just for class discussion, huh? Any highlights? Are you aware that the budget was stable last Friday?
Yes.
Yes.
No, sir.
Yes.
Oh, okay, now comment is coming, huh? Not much allocation for uni students. Right. Yeah, but Ministry of Education received the highest together with the Ministry of Health. For uni students, yeah, you receive what? 50 ringgit? Or 250?
50 ringgit, but it's on below 21 only.
Oh, okay. So you are very advanced, huh? Graduating students. Only third year or final year. Right, but yeah, but they give what do you call it? Financial assistance, isn't it? Or based on the level of income. Okay. But you can consider yourself as students, or I mean, based on the age and the income earned. But that one is based on the family, isn't it? The domestic income. Okay, other comment? Okay, another way to look at it is, let's say on entrepreneurships, upskillings. I think there are allocations for, I mean, for Bumi Putra, they mention, very clear how much is the allocation. I think including the upskilling, and industry-based certifications. Okay, so have a quick look if accounting still, because usually in the previous year, accounting, professional papers was given support, but this time, have a look if they continue. Okay, like the scheme under Peneraju and all that. Of course, at the same time, I think the focus is on the pandemic, as well as now majority of Malaysians are, because we are facing this economic crisis. But opportunities are there. You can see that the level of, is there any comment on the level of budget being proposed? How much was the budget? Any idea? The total budget proposed? You can put on the chat. Yes, 323 billion. Okay, not all is basically funded through government agencies. Okay, so a big chunk as well is basically funding through, I mean, directly to the target groups. I mean, for the financial assistance. So you can see nowadays, it's very different than before. Before, generally, the funding is basically through programs and activities, okay, of the government agencies, okay, providing the services. Now there are also, because of the financial crisis and COVID, people lost jobs. So, direct funding is one of the mechanisms. Besides, like they allow the reduction, I think, tax incentive, reductions of tax rates, as well as being able to withdraw their money from EPF. Okay, so you can see it's very consistent with the fact that the potential that people are losing their jobs is very high nowadays. So a very tough time. Hopefully this, but I think the level of spending definitely is, they mentioned as expansionary budget. So to stimulate the economic development or economic activities actually. All right, so so you get the idea nowadays, but you can see now the members of parliament are basically debating the budget. Okay, I think the opposition leader already voiced out his concern. I think there are areas of concern that highlighted by both ruling parties as well, members of ruling parties as well as opposition. I think that's the democracy. That's the normal process of budgeting. But this time, because of the ruling government, they don't have so many numbers for majority, so they need support from the opposition. I think, and definitely the King Agong has made it very clear, and then you can see clearly the view from both the ruling party, members of parliament from ruling parties, as well as the opposition, that they need to uphold the directive given by Agong, so that they will approve the budget. But in between, the budget negotiations need to take place, and I think every party has put their conditions. Right, there's a question by Nur Aida. May I know what is your opinion on budget allocation for JASA? Okay, now another student, Hana Balkis. Yeah, JASA suddenly become a center point of the discussion. Okay, frankly, I also overlook JASA as a unit in the government. Okay, but it turned out to was one of the think tanks under Barisan Nasional to develop a policy for the government. Okay, and but recently, because of they receive quite significant amount of budget, so there is criticism from both sides, from the government, political members of parliaments, as well as from opposition. But I mean, there was a sharing where they basically share the element of the budget. So if you can see from the element of the budget, so out of 83 million, the emolument is around 4 million, but the rest is on services, basically procurements. I think there was a comment made by the previous director of JASA that they do not need that much of money to run JASA. So all this debate, I think definitely the government will take that into account. But nevertheless, if the amount is justified, because they have, I mean, good reason why they need that amount of money. Okay, so I think the issue is how they justify. Okay, If it is justified, I mean, and it is, for value for money, why not? But if it is like, not really, I think let the debate continue and let them, basically look. I mean, definitely the voice is very, very strong now, generally against that amount of money to be spent during this crisis time. Okay. So what is my opinion? I think I'm more on towards, okay, if the activities are essential activities, okay, so of course budget should be allocated, but it just in terms of the quantum, is it justified or not? So we don't have the direct information to justify or to comment, but later on when we discuss on the procurement process, then we can see, because the amount should be when they award the projects to any groups or any suppliers or contractors or consultants, so the amount should be justified, that reflect value for money. I think that's my quick comment. Okay, I think one more if you want. All right. Okay. 150 million allocated for KPT PACE program, where fresh grads can get up to 3K per person to sit for okay, all right. Yes. So only 3,000, huh? Okay. So maybe, take it positively, because 3,000 can amount to what? 2-3 papers. Okay. So maybe that will, because I can see some students, I just spoke recently, this is today, yeah. So I had one student, so he basically preparing for Week5a papers. So he planned to complete some of the papers, and then the remaining he will continue in on the audit firms, Big Four. I think normally if it is Big Four, then they will pay for your fees, isn't it? And some companies also, they have that mechanism. Okay, so but anyway, it's a good start. If you don't want to, I mean, it's a allocation given. So 3,000 for you then. Huh? Is it a lot? Of course, you don't get the coupon, the book coupon, but this is also another way to get the funding. Previously, they have Peneraju. I think many of our students, our graduates, benefited from that as well. Okay, if no questions, let me continue with the lecture. Okay, so outcome-based budgeting. Yes, I think we need to continue with this understanding. Of course, now we are at the by right, there is a new Malaysian plan being proposed, but I'm not sure with the budget table. No discussion yet, because I think the discussion is more towards the next year budget, and the fact that we are now in the crisis, okay, with COVID as well as economic slowdown. So I think this more urgent for the budget, for government to address these problems before they can plan for the future. But in any case, I think the major infrastructure like telecommunication, okay, I think fiber optic, if I'm not mistaken. So the budget is still on. I think a lot of budget also given to the East Malaysia, okay, Sabah and Sarawak, because of the infrastructure projects, including the Trans-Borneo, okay, I think that one still continue. So you can see that major activities have been supported by the budget. Okay, so OBB, outcome-based budgeting. So look at this, the implementation of outcome-based budgeting. It was introduced by the previous government under Datuk Sri Najib. Okay, it started when he took office. So from 2010, I think it started in 2008, isn't it? But and then continue with this outcome-based budgeting, because basically to support the reform programs that was introduced, or they call it transformation program. There are two major transformation programs that time. It was economic transformation program as well as government transformation program. Okay, so basically a reform initiative, but just that to bring forward the country. Of course, that time the idea of Malaysian government or Malaysia to be a developed nation by 2020 is still very high. Okay, and then of course, obviously during that time, the economic still growing in a good pace. Okay, it's just that recently when the crisis is the economic crisis, I think the cycle is getting shorter, and on top of that, with this crisis nowadays that we are facing. Nevertheless, I think they extended, the target to be developed nation up to 2030. Okay, but anyway, we look at this outcome-based budgeting. From 2012, 2013, I think, promotion for implementation. And with 2016 onwards, full implementation of outcome-based budgeting. Okay. The objectives, because as I said, okay, there was a national transformation policy with the two major programs, economic as well as the government transformation program. Delegating more autonomy to program controllers on resource management. Okay, I think if program controllers are very similar to controlling officers. And improving the accountability of public sector at all levels via strengthened governance framework. So they have this, they call it National Result Framework as well as Ministry Result Framework. Of course, National Result Framework is in basically the policy under the Prime Minister, whereas Ministry Result Framework at the ministry level. So of course, the integral part of the governance framework is the KPIs. So the type of KPIs. So they even reinforce further the use of outcome-based as well as impact-based key performance indicators, right? Okay, that's one. The other is, of course, the governance. The governance means particularly the reporting of the KPIs. Because, with the KPI, there is timeline. Definitely, it's all time sensitive. Okay, when they propose the reforms, so there is a progress based on what do you call it, milestones and projects. So they need to achieve within the 5 years. And nevertheless, I think this time the KPIs, the outcome, unlike the modified budgeting system, okay, where the program agreement is also focusing on impact and outcome, but the structure, the governance, okay, is between the controlling officers and the treasury. Whereas in this case, it's between the Prime Minister and with the Minister, okay? And of course, with the Minister, under the Minister is the controlling officers, okay, and where they can push down further. So in terms of reporting, the accountability is much more, if you look at in terms of top down of the executive, so the outcome-based budgeting having a better structure as compared to modified budgeting systems. Okay, 6 transformation levels they focus on. Okay, focus on outcomes. Okay, so these outcomes is basically the performance indicators. So they must achieve, and at the end there must be a policy objective as well. Okay. Vertical alignment of national priorities and ministry activities. Okay, because they have a national result framework. So all ministries, when they plan, they must support. Okay, and of course, definitely, all as we discussed, the strategic planning of the government as well as the ministries, and then that will be deliberated at the cabinet level as well as the parliament. But if in terms of outcome-based budgeting, it's pretty much, I think, the main player or the main is basically the Prime Minister. During that time, he introduced this One Malaysia, okay, One Malaysia concepts. So basically, the center is the Prime Minister and how he developed the reforms. Okay, and I think I still remember when they introduced the transformation program. So all the KPIs, all the programs were reported in the main media, in the newspapers. Okay, so in a way, it's a good plan when you show to the people what is the plan. Okay, just like companies. If you look at listed companies, generally in the beginning of the period, they will release their target profits, okay, or their targets earnings per share. All right, and then at the end of the year, so what will be? Do they manage to achieve those targets? Right. So you have planning, and then you have the reporting. So it's a very good practice. Okay. The only thing in Malaysia, Malaysian government, is the reporting side, and then we have to discuss further. Okay. Managing cross-cutting initiatives, I think that way they want to minimize waste and reduce redundancies across government agencies. Coordination of operating and development budget. Yes, so outcome-based budgeting, okay, as we discussed before, modified budgeting system only focus on operating budget. Whereas under MBS, okay, the plan is they can reconcile these two, operating and development budget, okay, in much more coherent to achieve the national results framework. Accountability in the public sector and authority over resources. Okay, I think we discussed with the outcome, so that these KPIs can become the accountability elements between the subordinates and the superior, for in this case, between the land managers to the control officers to the ministers, and at the end towards the Prime Minister. Systematic monitoring and evaluation system, of course, that need to be part of as well. Particularly, of course, the progress of the projects, as well as all projects need, when they are approved, they need to be executed in the most efficient and effective manner. Right, the design of outcome-based budgeting, all these are basically, these elements are taken from the outcome-based framework issued by the government. Okay, program-based approach budgeting. So you can see that is a continuation of our program-based budgeting. So the channeling, distribution of budget allocations through programs. But you must remember the program must be approved by the Treasury, for them to be able to be considered to be eligible to receive funding. Strengthening the role of responsibility for Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning Unit, as well as Public Service Department. So I think this one is very strong in the sense that these three units, okay, they are working together. So more coordinations, operating budget as well as the development budgets. And PSD, Public Service Department, because they are in charging of promotion and recruitments of the government civil servant, as well as particularly the promotion of the top management, including controlling officers. If the mechanism are in line with their criteria, definitely, because all these controlling officers and managers, they take note of public service department role, because it relates to their promotion. Alignment of ministerial programs with national result framework. Okay, so as mentioned, that if they plan at ministerial level, they must be in line with the national result framework. Medium-term perspective planning and budgeting, so it relates to Malaysian plan. Strategic strengthening performance management. Okay, so with the type of indicators need to be developed, as well as the information system need to be improved. I think that can improve the performance management, as well as the structure of the accountability. Delegation of power to controlling officers. Controlling officers are made responsible for resources under his control. So I think enhancement. So I think under MBS also, the flexibility is already provided to controlling officers. But in this case, it's just that it's more consistent, and the contracts, the performance contracts, the KPIs, they are directly accountable to the Prime Minister. Okay, so quite strong in that sense. Okay, as is, I mean, if it is compared against MBS. Incentive for results, attaining a result must be linked with the existing reward system. Okay, I think that is can be done because it's clearly the public service department is directly involved in the designing of outcome-based budgeting. Right, so the implementation cycle, planning for outcome, I think budgeting for outcome, and reporting of the results, including the monitoring. I think this one, I think basically the cycle for the budget, particularly for the Malaysian plan as well as for the annual budget. So the planning must have the budgeting with the monitoring and then with the reporting. So of course, reporting, the level of reporting, okay, but definitely the reporting here, the performance reporting is what is clear is basically between the controlling officers, the ministers, okay, reported to the Prime Minister. Okay, the strategic plan, so you can see here transformation pillars, and these are the basic, the underlying reforms that outcome-based budgeting supporting basically these reforms. The economic transformation program as well as government transformation program. Okay, ETP as well as GTP. Okay, of course it's in Malay, but basically it's economic. Of course, I mean, not generally economic transformation program must be supported by very strong public service delivery. Yeah? Okay, and still, if you look at outcome-based budgeting, the target is this year for Malaysian government or for Malaysia is basically to achieve the developed nation status. Do we achieve our developed nation status, class? Is Malaysia a developed nation or still growing? Are we developing nation or developed nation?
Developing.
Developing.
Okay, so anyone, what is the difference between developing and developed? No different?
Developing is under process, and developed means already they have everything for better lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are criteria for them to be able to achieve that status. Okay, including income per capita and others, and definitely infrastructure. Developing, still developed already there. Okay, all right. And I think it's good, if we can travel to both type of countries. I mean, 3 type of countries. Less developed, developing, and developed countries. I think it's good for us to experience these 3 types of countries, and for you to be able to appreciate the level of public service as well as the quality of life that we have. I think Malaysia is towards the end of developing, because we are also considered as one of very advanced new industrialized countries. Okay, maybe the focus is more on the spread of this economic development. Okay, so it should be developed throughout the states, where the opportunities are also given to every Malaysian. Right, but yes, I mean, even if you look at some developed countries, let's say in the US, for instance, US is such a big country. It's a whole continent, so you can expect, okay, in the big cities, very developed, but there are also, in the certain areas, they are very, just like what we have here in Malaysia, or maybe less, because it's a whole big country. But in terms of the government, I mean, in terms of, relatively, okay.
Sir?
Yes.
Can a country that already developed suddenly become developing country?
Okay, at this point, none yet. Not happening yet. Okay, for some reason, right? But doesn't mean that developed countries, they're not facing economic problems. So if you look at Europe, for instance, okay, massive economic problems. But nevertheless, because the size of economy is very big, okay, like Japan, for instance, okay, they face all kind of economic problems as well, slow down, okay, slow economic growth and all that. But I think one of the features of a developed nation is they cannot, their economic growth cannot be too high. because it can quickly translate it into very high inflation, right? And yes, but I think based on your question, I think none. Maybe by my perspective, I might be wrong. Okay. Yeah, but developing towards develop also. Maybe the recent one could possibly Singapore or Taiwan. Okay, not really recent, but relatively. But the rest are still holding that position of developing countries. Okay, of course, we can look at in the when I'm saying this, I'm looking at economic perspective. But there are also dimensions of geopolitical dynamics of those categories. Okay, that one need to be discussed separately because I'm not the expert person to talk on that. Okay. Right. Anyway, so the room for development is there, and it is important. Okay, but if you look at developed countries also, the focus on the developing agenda, okay, by the budget may not as rigorous as developing countries. Okay, at least you can see that because the reliance on the private sector to provide jobs, so very heavy. Okay. So even if you look at US last time, but they face the problems. Okay, during the Trump, I think Trump highlighted the major problem that faced by the US, where they lost the jobs to because many multinational companies based in US, basically they expanding to other countries to benefit from cheap labor because of expansion, and also access to the new markets. And they open up plants in different countries. Okay, so as a result, the Americans they lost job opportunities. Okay, so there are pros and cons in that manner. Okay, let me continue. Okay, so these are national result areas. There are 5 trusts. We look at this. Based on for OBB, outcome-based budgeting, creating the environment for unleashing economic growth. Okay, so economic growth still the I mean the important areas that government need to support. Moving towards inclusive socio-economic development. Okay, so I think under that time is one Malaysia concept. Then it's pretty much supporting the socio-economic development, the equal opportunities for everybody, for Malaysians. Developing and retaining a first world talent base. I think this one is a human capital. By that time also there is a need of to attract Malaysian, okay, basically Malaysian working overseas so that they can contribute locally. Yeah, so there are so many incentives that was introduced. Building an environment that enhances quality of life, of course, transforming government to transform Malaysia. So basically 4 relating to economic as well as socio-economics, and 1 is for government. Yeah? Right, so with that, there is key result areas. Okay, with the national outcomes, there are national programs. Okay, so with that, from the national programs, then the ministry have to support those programs. Definitely, this program will be distributed across ministries, right? So the ministries have, I think if you look at ministry and then up to sub-activity, this is very similar to the modified budgeting system in terms of structure, okay? How they basically related to the planning and budgeting, ministry level. But of course, the key area will be the performance indicators. Right, so comparison between modified budgeting system and outcome-based budgeting. Basically, MBS is up to the ministry level. The rest outcome-based budgeting. On top of that, they have national programs, outcome as well as national result areas. And of course, they're not in terms of structure. They are up to ministry level. They are very similar to MBS. It's just that the need of new programs that can translate and support the national programs. Okay, so if you look at this integrated approach on the outcome-based budgeting, so basically the integral part is the KPIs. Okay, the KPIs, the output and outcome of KPIs, right from the activity level, and then move up to program level, and then ministry level. So ministry have their KPIs, and then at national level. So basically ministry level KPIs. So who will monitor the KPIs for the ministers under outcome-based budgeting? Who do you think is monitoring the KPIs of the ministers? Ministers of economic development, ministers of agriculture, ministers of transport. So who will monitor the KPIs under OBB, outcome-based budgeting? Anyone? Who will monitor? Class, are you with me, class? Hello?
Don't know, sir.
Okay. So at this point, if you look at controlling officer, you understand controlling officers. So controlling officer with the budget, they have their KPIs. Okay. I think pretty much program agreement, all that between the treasury must be there still. And then, so under the control officers, they have their KPIs, okay, under program manager as well as activity managers. Okay, they can be, with all the branches and all that, and activity within the ministries. But here, the Prime Minister is basically monitoring the KPIs of the ministers, okay, under outcome-based budgeting. Okay, I think that's the key difference, where this KPI is basically monitored by the Prime Minister himself. Okay, example, so if you look at this, okay, national programs, there are 3: improve literacy rate, eradication of poverty, and crime reduction. So with a specific budget allocation. So if you look at this, one example here, eradication of poverty. So I think in Malaysia, eradication of poverty is always an ongoing policy, eradication of poverty. Right, so how to support these national programs? There are 3 ministries, right? So Ministry Outcome, under Ministry of Agriculture, increase in farmer income, okay, 30 million allocated to Ministry of Agriculture. And then elimination of hardcore poor under Ministry of Rural Development, so 50 million was allocated. And then increase in agro-tourism, okay, to Ministry of Tourism, 20 million was allocated. So it's an example. So how 3 different ministries supporting national programs. Right, another is, I think, okay, during that time, I think eradication of poverty, and you can see that's why the empowerment of economic activities at the local level. I think there are 1 or 2 very successful initiatives. I think still we benefit from those activities today. So related to local tourism. I think in Malaysia, that one is, I think, was formulated before Dr. Sri Najib time. Was, I think, during last time, where they promote the local tourism. Okay, nowadays, you know about this homestay, isn't it? Are you familiar with homestay? Homestay.
Yes.
Huh? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, homestay. Yeah? Homestay means, I think if you go throughout the country, I think one of the options for you, either you stay in the hotel or you can stay in the homestay, right? So that homestay is basically government initiative. They introduced so that to encourage local tourism activities. Okay, but you can see the benefit until today. So families, they have options. Okay, they can stay in the hotel, but I think more popular they will stay in the homestay, where there's basically not companies or big companies, are basically individuals providing homestay services. Okay, and I think that was quite, I mean, very successful in that sense, to increase the income of the rural areas. Okay, as an example. Okay, and okay, under Ministry of Rural Development, there are breakdown into various programs. So in this case, consolidation of farms, location is 15 million, training of farmers 10 million, okay, upgrading of farm infrastructure 5 million. As an example. Then with activities, okay, let's say for training of farmers, okay, it's divided under activities. So you can see this structure, the funding process, okay, from national plan to support the national plan, okay, from the national programs to the activities within the ministries, okay, where basically the ministry programs and activities are reflected in the form of government agencies or specific program basically monitored by the ministries themselves. Right, so to support outcome-based budgeting, okay, with the OBB, the Accountant General will implement the following to support the new budgeting system. Okay, one of them is accrual accounting, activity-based costing, and then with the accounting IT system. They call it government financial and managerial accounting system. So I think these are all ongoing projects at the Accountant General. So accrual accounting, so even accrual accounting, that's why, you know, if they have this pool of accountants that is, you know, have all those relevant competencies and all that, so they can help the line managers, the controlling officers to provide relevant feedbacks. Okay, financial, it can be both financial and non-financial information, I think, as you learn from management accounting topics. So accrual accounting can provide good information, recite for the purpose of financial reporting, and activity-based costing as well. So I think if they can mobilize activity-based costing as it should be, so I think a better use of public monies can be put in place, as well as the IT system. I think for activity-based costing, okay, they completed the implementation at the Accountant General Department, and by right they should expand that to all government agencies. Okay, but how the implementation can be an issue. So it's good if you, in a way that you can study this further. Implementation challenges with regard to outcome-based budgeting. Insufficient number of trainers to cascade outcome-based OBB knowledge at program or activity level. Okay, it can be a challenge. Difficult to appoint a qualified person who can be a point of contact. Right, I think that when with the implementation of new reforms, generally every government agency, they have a person point of contact, so that they can basically become the key person of the implementation of the programs. But since these are outcome-based budgeting, you should expect that this person in the financial division or administrative and finance division will be in charge, okay, together with the Director General or the top managers in the organizations. Government agencies may need to combine, divide, omit, and redefine some activities. Okay, I think that can be done through strategic planning. OBB requires ministries and agencies to adopt, identify relationship between spending and expected results. Okay, so more clear relationships. Okay, they are given budget allocations, so they must achieve what KPIs. And these KPIs are very strong KPIs. These are outcome-based KPIs. Difficult task for a manager in agency to identify and estimate activity costs that eventually link to outcomes. Okay, that's why I think the activity-based costing was introduced for that. Adoption of new management information system as well as accounting information system that can complement outcome-based budgeting to assist the manager and agency in managing and distributing resources among activities more effectively. Yeah? But I think you need to understand the dynamics within the organizations. They have their strategic plannings. I think that definitely that will outline what will be the priorities for them to get the support for the funding. DN, any question? So that is outcome-based budgeting as a techniques for budgeting process, and particularly the budget preparation. Then we'll discuss on the budgetary control. Right? Okay, question. How government deal with KPIs is not achieved? Okay, good question. Very good question. Okay, ideally, they must be accountable. Okay, and if they don't achieve, then I mean, of course, decision can be made at administratively. Okay, non-performing managers definitely, you know, what should be the right action taken. So that's why I think when we talk about KPIs achievement, this is a serious matters. So managers, you know, that's why when it becomes KPIs, it becomes a center point of their decision making. And that's one. The other is how rigorous they will do the monitoring of the implementation of the activities. Okay. So in other words, if they don't achieve, so there must be good reason why they don't achieve. Okay, so what are the obstacles that stop them from achieving? So, so in other words, it's not easy not to achieve KPI as well. Okay, but you can see nowadays, I think definitely many KPIs cannot be achieved because of the crisis time. What was planned in 2019, okay, now 2020 is suddenly the economic activities being scaled down, okay, because of the pandemic. Then you can expect that in 2020, so many agencies will be affected in terms of their performance. But we'll see the reporting in 2021. Right, but if it is like something unavoidable circumstances, right, that stop them from achieving their performance targets, then of course, you know, but what else can be done? That's one. The other is flexibility to change as well. That's why I think in accounting, during the time of crisis, they always discuss on we need an agile organizations. Not only agile organizations, we need agile individuals who can adapt with the new, very dynamic environment. Okay? Is it a straightforward answer, Sister Hannah Balkis?
Yeah, okay, sir.
So yeah, what I mean is generally managers take KPI seriously. Okay, so if there is a variance, so that can be explained. And I think we'll discuss on performance achievement, KPIs. There's a topic for that, so we can discuss further. Right, any other questions? Okay, if no, right, I will end this session. I will end this session. If you have any questions, you can stay back. I will wait till everybody, almost everybody leave. Okay, so with that, I end this session with Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, sir.